Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in to the Amazing Rare Rubies ABCs of Finance moment. Happy Tuesday to you. I hope you all's week. Hey, Tanisha, how are you, darling? So I have people that's on Facebook, and I'm going to have people on StreamYard, which doesn't show on Facebook. But good morning, good morning. I am hopeful that all of you are having a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday and everything has started out fabulously. Thank you so much for joining in today for the ABCs of Finance moment. My name is Mika McLendon, and I'm the founder and CEO of Amazing Rare Rubies. And we are an organization that is designed to encourage women to become the woman God created them to be. We've been walking on this journey for a very long time, but took it to where it was literally birthed in, I think it's 2014. And so, what we have found in this journey is we've tried to help individuals become the woman God created them to be by practicing Proverbs 31 traits and characteristics. And we did our diffusion process devotional journal, which has about 20 to 25 traits in it that literally walks you through examples and individuals in the Bible that displayed proper traits for us to be this woman that we were created to be, because we know we live in a society that doesn't necessarily help us cultivate those type of characteristics, right? And when we talk about the Proverbs 31 characteristics, we're talking about everything that you read in Proverbs 31, right? So she was very knowledgeable. She was a businesswoman. She was creative. She was thoughtful. She was patient. She was helpful. She was kind. She had all these different traits, but society doesn't necessarily help us work on them. And so in this journey, we found that one of the biggest areas that women were struggling with was their finances. And if you read through Proverbs, she's thrifty, right? She considers a field and buys it. See, I love that, right? She goes out and she's scanning land and looking at properties and things of this sort, and she buys it. It says she plants a vineyard, right? So when you're talking about a vineyard, she's putting people to work as well. Right. And so this doesn't mean you have to be an entrepreneur. So let's get that straight, because I know a lot of times we get caught and wrapped up in that entrepreneur word. And it's wonderful if you can make it work and it's profitable for you. But believe it or not, over 60% of businesses out there are not actually succeeding. What do I mean by that? A lot of them are making less than minimum wage, but they're entrepreneurs. So we want to make sure we put it in the right context for where we are today. And so in finding that we as women were struggling with our finances, God laid it on my heart the importance of financial literacy. And that's where this segment began to come about. And that's where we began to develop the ABCs of Finance class. And we developed our boot camp to begin to help individuals with their finances. And as I've studied myself and as I've began and walked my own journey of becoming financially not just stable, but get into financial freedom, as I've walked my own journey of that, I have truly found that we have to break some cycles and we have to break some mindsets that's been instilled in us from the time we were born, even down to going to school, right? You go to school, you get an education, you learn a trade. And they look for you to go out into the world, go to college, get a degree in that trade, and then go out and be in that area. And so many people did that, but they're stuck now with a lot of student loans that people are truly struggling to pay back. So we get into this cycle, right? Of a financial whirlwind, and a lot of people going to get these degrees, which are great. I'm not knocking degrees, right? But we need to be able to pay for them. That's the other end of it, right? So a lot of people are going to get these degrees, and unfortunately, so many are graduating with a house note and they don't even have a house yet. So these type of things God began to lay on my heart and help me understand we've got to get a mindset of how to have a healthy financial relationship with our money, because we're not taught how to do that. I know I wasn't. Now I know my parents did the best for me that they could. Let's call an ugly pig an ugly pig, right? You can't teach what you don't know. So my parents did the best for me that they could, but I used to be in that financial whirlwind. I used to be the person living paycheck to paycheck. I used to be the person robbing Peter to pay Paul, because that was the concept. That was what I knew. So this ABCs of Finance moment is here to help us in understanding and enhancing our financial literacy. We do that by providing tips and nuggets to help you enhance it one step at a time. This journey is a process. That's the thing we've got to understand with this. Hello to my people on StreamYard. I know Facebook people can't see them, but hello. Thank you guys so much for joining in today. And I'm hopeful that this information, these tips and nuggets are going to be beneficial for you. So again, we're here to give you those tips and nuggets to enhance your financial literacy. Some things that you probably didn't learn when you were in high school or college, right? We knew how to go to school. We knew how to get a job. We know how to pay some bills, work, make money, spend money, but we're not always spending it in a positive way that is going to enhance our own becoming, get us to that land of milk and honey, because God did not intend for us to be broke, busted, and disgusted. My daughter, she doesn't like when I say that piece, but it's the truth. We weren't created to live in lack. So part of this is giving those tips and things on how we can get past that, right? And how we can move forward. So one of the things that God gave me is what we call LAMPS, okay? And LAMPS is an acronym. It's the benefits God gave me for the class, for the ABCs of Finance moment, and even for our boot camp, right? And so let me walk through those with you. The L is for literacy. This is where we need to ascertain knowledge and skills to help us understand what to do with our money, right? And if you've been to one of my classes or you've been to my boot camp, I do not believe that just knowledge is power. Applied knowledge is power, because we can have it all up here, but if we're not applying it, it doesn't make a difference. Miles Monroe said one of the richest places in the world is the graveyard. And that's because people died with so much up here. So yes, we want the literacy. We need the knowledge and the skills, but we need to apply that to our lives, right? The A is for accountability. And this is where we need to be a good steward over our money, be a good steward over what God is trusting us with so that he can trust us with more. And here's the thing. When we're trying to be accountable and we're looking to have a solid foundation, which is going to be the S down there, a solid foundation on our finances, guess what? You can't afford to be normal. Normalcy is 80% of working Americans living paycheck to paycheck. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be normal if that's what normal looks like. So to be a good steward, it does require us to walk a different path. And it's the narrow path. It's not the wide one. It's not the most popular one. Okay. And there's the M for management. This is where we learn how to allocate our money so we can make proper decisions. We need to make effective, impactful decisions when it comes down to our money so that we can look for a positive ROI, a positive return on investment, not just where we're barely getting by. Right? But we have to understand those basic foundational things in order for that to start happening for us. Okay. Then there's the P for planning. This is where we control our income, expenses, savings, and investments. We're probably going to hit that P today in today's lesson because we're going to need to make sure we're in control. We're got to make sure we're in control of our money, not our money telling us where it's going to go. And trust me, with 80% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, a lot of us are allowing our money to tell us where it's going to go versus us telling it where it's going to go. And then there's the S for stability. And that's, again, where we have solid foundational financial information. It's a solid platform. It doesn't mean you're going to know everything. Okay? That's not what this means. But it does mean that you will have a basic foundational understanding so that it'll help you make some intelligent decisions. And this acronym LAMPS comes from Psalms 119:105, where it says, God is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. And we believe that in order for us to have this, in order for us to get this knowledge, to have a solid foundation, to understand what to do with money and to be a good steward over it so we can make sure we're in control, in order for us to do this, we need God to be a light and a lamp for us. We can't do this in the normal world because, again, normalcy is paycheck to paycheck living, and that's not where we want to be. Okay, so let's move forward. And today we are going to talk about emergency funds. Now, you guys have heard me talk about this before. We're going to dig in a little bit deeper on here because I've given you the definition of it. I've told you why it's important, but I'm going to give you some other things around this today. And you know me, I like to give statistics because statistics also help us understand and see a bigger picture when it comes down to a lot of this information. So let's start. Let's talk about emergency funds. Well, what is it, right? What is an emergency fund? In simple terms, an emergency fund is simply where we have access to hands-on cash that we can use in the event of unplanned small emergencies. Key word in there, unplanned. Another key word is small, right? So two keywords, small, unplanned emergencies, right? And this is where we can easily get our hand on that money and we can do what we need to do to take care of that emergency, right? So what type of emergencies am I talking about? I got a flat tire. My microwave broke. My children have something they need to do at school that wasn't originally planned in this month's budget, as an example. But here's one we're really going to talk about today. How about paying bills on time, late payments of bills? If we had an emergency fund, that would help us, where we would have access to this quick money to help us make a turnaround on maybe a bill that we forgot about, a bill that we didn't budget into our weekly or monthly finances. So this emergency fund becomes extremely important. How much should you have in that fund? That's a very good question. So normally the rule of thumb I give is this. If you are a person who's making $24,000 or less, I would encourage you to get an emergency fund of $500. Okay, if you're making $24,000 or less, get an emergency fund of at least $500. Okay, if you're making more than that, so $24,001 or more, right? Get an emergency fund of $1,000, at least $1,000. We have found that if individuals have that 500 based on their level of where they're living, money flow, right? That's coming in, what they're making, that 24,000 or that 24,000 or more, right? If they have that $500 or that $1,000, it can be a lifesaver for you. What does it do for you? It's going to help you not pull out a credit card. Hello. Which, you know, when you pull out a credit card and you go and you pay a bill, you buy shoes, you get your hair done, you go out to dinner, I don't care what you do. If you're not paying that credit card off at the end of the month in total, not the minimum payment, not a little more than a minimum payment, but in total, if you're not doing that, you're paying interest. So that means that $25 item is no longer $25. It may now be $26.50, depending upon your interest. And if you still didn't pay it off the second month, it could be $28.50. Now, interest adds on to that, right? But if you have an emergency fund, right? This is a small, unexpected, unplanned emergency that came up. And now you can actually pay that bill. So that's the big reason why these emergency funds are important. Now, I know if you're on StreamYard, I know my StreamYard people are used to also hearing about living expense fund. Yes, we still need that, but we're not going to deal with living expense fund today. We're going to deal with the emergency fund today. Now, I will tell you what the living expense fund is, because if you already have your emergency fund, you're at that next step of living expense fund. And that's the fund that we have that is there to handle big unplanned emergencies. And that's normally where we have a minimum of 3 months worth of our monthly living expenses. So we're not going to deal with that piece today, right? Because today I want to talk again about the importance of getting the foundation, the basics first. Get your emergency fund saved up. Why? Check out these statistics. Nearly 50% of Americans are not able to pay their bills on time. Did you hear that? That means half, right? Half of the 8 billion people we have are not able to pay their bills on time in the world. And I'm sure if it's in the US like that, it's probably pretty equivalent elsewhere too. But if you want me to pull that 8 billion back, just deal with the US people. Okay, so you got millions of folks who are not able to pay their bills on time, almost 50%. And 6 out of 10 struggle with anxiety around paying their bills. Did you hear that? What does that tell us? That tells us 9 times out of 10, we're living out of our means. We don't have enough to accommodate our basic means. And yes, there are a lot of factors that's going to contribute to that. Here's the thing though, if you have nearly 50% of Americans that can't pay their bills, we need to look at the why behind it, right? And even though there are some factors that are outside of your control, so I want to be honest and clear about that. There are some things you're not going to have control over. When you're talking about your finances and enhancing financial literacy, we want to talk about the things that you do have control over. And you're never going to get out of the rat race, and you're never going to get out of the financial whirlwind if you don't get that mindset together that says, what can I control versus what I don't have control over? So what do I mean when I say don't have? Reasons that people are struggling right now is, if we talk about this pandemic, what have we seen? We've seen that wonderful, hateful, don't like word unless we're getting a raise called inflation. Yeah. Inflation has happened. In January, we hit an all-new high. January 2022, we hit a high with inflation. One of the biggest areas that we see inflation every single day is in our groceries, in our food bill. But here's one thing I'm going to tell you about that. What we have to do is change the mindset of succumbing to food prices went up, so now my bill just has to go up however much the food prices went up. That's not true. It's like when gas went up, and I was on my Facebook page and I was saying all this different stuff about gas, and everybody was freaking out that it was $5, whatever, a gallon, right? Well, I drive too. But here's the thing. My mindset says, okay, gas prices went up. So what do I need to do regarding the errands and the things that I have to do in my life? How can I adjust them so that I don't just eat the inflation because they said it went up? So I began to make routes for myself. I leave my house on certain days. I'm blessed to be a housewife. I'm retired. And so I plan out my week. And yes, I drive less than the average person who's going to work. I get it. But also I was used to, at $3 a sub, whatever, a gallon, and I still had to use premium. I was used to, I just go and do what Mika wanted to do. But as inflation happened with gas prices, I had to reel that in and say, wait a minute. I'm just not going to keep going out willy-nilly. Hey, yes, I'll meet you for lunch. Yeah, we can go do this. Or, oh, I forgot to do this. Just run back out. I had to change that mindset and say, wait a minute. Just because you said gas is $5 and something a gallon doesn't mean that I just have to eat that. Right? So I began to say, okay, Mika, write the vision, make it plain. Habakkuk 2:2. Let's write out what you need to do during the week. What do you have on your schedule for this week? And how can you make that happen using the least amount of gas, the least amount of travel? So if I needed to see somebody, well, let me call and let's schedule this and work this in. It's the same thing with your groceries. I did the same thing. I go to the grocery store now more so with the grocery list than I ever had. I just don't go in and pick up the milk because, oh, I need milk. Okay, so there are alternatives, right? Is there another place that I'm going to pass by that I can buy this milk? Did I see it on sale here? You can think through a lot of different things to help you with the inflation part. Again, we can't control the fact that they took inflation up, right? We don't have control over that, but we do have control over if we just allow inflation to consume our money because they said inflation. Okay, so I'm hoping that's helping somebody there, because here's the thing. This emergency fund helps us with things like this, because guess what? Out of those almost 50% of Americans who are paying their bills late, guess what the number one reason is for paying their bills late? Take a wild guess. Ding, 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 ding. You guessed it. They don't have the money. But here's a sad piece that goes with that. Here's a very, very sad piece. Check this out. Over 50%, and this is more like in the 60% of a survey that I saw. And I couldn't remember that exact number for 60 something. So I just said over 50, but I can tell you it's really over 60%. And I don't know the exact number. So over 60% of Americans don't know how much money they spent last month. Did you hear that? So here we are, don't have money to pay our bills, but we can't even tell you how much we spent last month and where it went. It goes back to planning. Remember that P? Planning. Let me show it back, give it to you again. Remember that P? Controlling our income, controlling our expenses, knowing where our money is going, right? Controlling how much we save, controlling how much we invest. We're not going to deal with the savings and investment today. We're dealing with controlling the income and controlling our expenses, where it's going. Most of us don't know that. That, my friends, is a problem. That contributes to why we don't have the money to pay our bills. We've got to get out of that environment, out of that headspace. That's another reason why it's important to have your emergency fund. Because if you have that emergency fund, guess what? If you forgot to pay that bill, or you really didn't have the money after you finished paying everything else, you can dip in that emergency fund and take care of that. Versus, and I think it was last week or maybe the week before last, I talked a lot about fees. You guys remember me talking about fees? Because when you have those late payments, guess what they're going to hit you with? A late fee. And the fees that are out there are astronomical right now, from banking fees to administration fees to convenient fees to customer service fees. There are so many types of fees out there. Remember, we talked about those. And late fees is a big one. And so you don't want to be paying out late fees on something that you don't have to. That's where your emergency fund can truly come in and benefit you. And it can help you. It can actually be a lifesaver at that moment. So you want to get that $500 or that $1,000 minimum on for your emergency fund. And where do you put it, right? So I have a lot of people ask me, okay, Mika, I hear you, I got it, but where do I put this money? And I encourage people to put it, well, before I say that, let me caveat it with this. Your emergency fund is not there for you to make money off of it, right? So when I give you this information, don't look at, well, how much interest can I earn? Your emergency fund is there for these unplanned emergencies, and you need to get your hands on that cash very quickly. So although I encourage putting it in an interest-bearing account, right? Remember, it's not the type of interest-bearing account that's going to make you rich. What do I mean by interest-bearing account? You want to put it in like a savings account or maybe a money market account. So if you're not using it, right, it can at least earn a little bit of interest for you, right? Get you a little bit of return on that money. And some return is better than no return, right? So one thing is looking at an interest-bearing account, like a savings account or a money market account. You want to make sure, number two, you have easy access to wherever you're going to put this. You don't want to put this at a credit union that's 50 miles away from you. Okay. You need it to be somewhere where you can get your hands on it when that unplanned, unexpected emergency happens. And then the third thing here is you want to make sure you keep it separate from your bill money and your spending money. Don't put it all in the same account, because we're learning here. And 9 times out of 10, if we're not accustomed to this headspace already, right? You know what we're going to do. It's going to go towards other stuff. And we'll start looking at our account balance, and the account balance will say $1,200. And you go, okay, I still got my $1,000 emergency fund in there. And then you do this and do this and do that and do this. And payday comes and your balance in your checking account says $850 as an example. And you spent $150 of your emergency fund. And then you psych yourself up to say, well, I get paid on Friday, so I just put it back over there. That's not it. Put it somewhere separate where it is safe, so that when you need it, you know that it's there. Because again, one of the main reasons people don't pay their bills is that they don't have the money. One of the other main reasons is they always say they forgot. That's something we got to get away from too. because we don't forget to go out and spend it. We don't forget to go out and have fun and put stuff on a credit card. We don't forget to do that. So for forgetfulness to be one of the top reasons, and actually to give them to you in order, what's first and what's second, they forgot is number one. And then number two, they don't have the money. Those are the top two reasons people don't pay their bills on time. You can't afford to forget to pay your bills. You didn't forget to have fun. Pay your bills. That's why we have to get a mindset of priority. And with so many of us, finances are not a priority right now. Why do you say that, Mika? 80% of working Americans live paycheck to paycheck. It's not a priority. Nobody wants to live like that, but we're trained. Day one, when you graduate high school, as an example, that first piece of mail you get with your name on it, 9 times out of 10 is stamped at the top and says pre-approved. It's a credit card offer. They don't even know if you got a job yet, but you're 18 years old. You're qualified now. Let's get them in debt. Let's get them started. And if you haven't been educated on what to do with that, we begin to fall by the wayside. And we begin to get in that financial whirlwind. And as that financial whirlwind goes, guess what? We go deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. So we want to get away from, I forgot and I don't have the money, right? We want to get away from that. How do we do that? Start out with your emergency fund. And if you're in the I forgot bucket, more so than you are the I don't have the money bucket, begin to do Habakkuk 2:2. Write the vision, make it plain. I believe regardless of whether you're at financial instability, living paycheck to paycheck, or whether you're at financial freedom and your money is making money for you and you're on the beach somewhere, at every level of your financial status, we need a budget. You have to constantly be in control and over telling your money where to go and what to do. As soon as, and my husband and I are examples of it because we've been working our plan for years. We've just hit our 10-year anniversary last October. Yay. And we've been working our plan for years. And one year we got a little cocky, which means I stopped tracking less. And we was like, oh, we're doing good. We go out and spend a little money here and celebrate. Well, guess what? We missed our goals that year. It was the 1 year out of 10 years we missed our financial goals. Because we didn't forget. That's wrong. We did not. We got cocky and didn't write the vision and make it plain. You've got to constantly tell your money where to go. Building blocks happen one at a time. This is not going to be the rabbit financial, I got money, I'm there thing. This is literally the crock pot. This is literally the turtle. This is literally the one brick at a time. Okay, but here's the thing. When you take the time to build it one brick at a time, you take the time to invest in enhancing your own financial literacy. Guess what? Nobody can take that from you. Regardless of what's going on over here, what they're saying over here, you have your own plan. And that's what we got to get to. Have your financial plan. Anyone without a financial plan is in trouble. And if you're going to work, you have an income, you got expenses, guess what? You qualify for a financial plan. A financial plan does not have to be this big, elaborate portfolio. It is starting and beginning to be right where you are. And that is what we teach with Amazing Rare Rubies, beginning to be right where you are while realistically and uniquely becoming you. That's what this is all about. So with that being said, Amazing Rare Rubies has our next Money Basic Bootcamp, and this is free. This is free. So if you've never watched me before, this is your first time seeing me and you're going, I really don't know this person. I'm not ready to pay them to take a class. Okay. Attend this free Money Basic boot camp. Can't talk. Money Basic Boot Camp. That is going to be May 9th and May 10th. It's 1 hour each night. 1 hour each night. It's from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. What do I talk about here? I'm going to talk about financial literacy, why it is important, and why don't we do it if we know it's important. That's the first night. We're going to really dig into that because part of becoming is owning up to where you are right now financially. So we got to understand that. And then the second night, I provide you with 6 basic things that every single person needs to know about their finances that the majority of the people do not know. And yes, I'm going to give you a total of 6, and we're going to break them down and talk about each one of them. And then after that Money Basic Boot Camp, normally I have a class, and that is the ABCs of Finance class, which is going to start that Thursday. Right after we finish with boot camp, we're going to have a class on the 12th. The class is a 2-hour class for 4 weeks. So it's going to start May 12th at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then the next week is going to be May 19th, which is that next Thursday, same time, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then on May 26th, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And the last part of the class is on June 2nd, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. It is a 4-part series class, 4-part series. It's an investment of 8 hours of your time to truly learn about the basics of becoming financially. This class right now is for $100. You heard me. And so right now on your screen is our QR code. If you have your phone, you can take that phone and scan that QR code, or you can just go to our website, www.amazingwarerubies.com, go to the ABCs of Finance tab, and you can sign up for both the boot camp and you can sign up for this class. And right now, this class is $100. It is not going to stay there. This, I can promise you that. It's a fabulous class right now. We're getting ready to go on our 3rd class or 4th class for this quarter because it's a 4-week class. We only offer it like once, maybe twice a month because it's a lot. I do it in person. This is not going to be a recording, but you can join it virtually. So this is a forum where you are able to ask questions. Now, eventually we are going to have it where it's downloaded and you can do it on your own. But again, God has it on my heart to truly, truly walk people through the basics. So I'm going to take that on and I'm walking people through the basics. So I'm there with you these 8 hours, 2 hours per week to invest in your own financial literacy and enhance that so that you can begin to be how God created us to be and not be in that volume of individuals that's just living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so we want to change that mentality. As always, with Amazing Wear Rubies, we pray that this segment has been beneficial to you, that you receive some type of tips and nuggets, and you were able to glean some information from that. So as always, we encourage you to keep God in every decision made. Yes, 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 every decision made, every lesson taught, and every lesson learned. Until next time, make sure you keep it a Ruby day. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. You guys take care and have a great week.
You are going to want to quit because you are human. But you've got to know that you must keep going.